Well, good evening. Thank you very much for joining me. This session is a discussion, really an informal discussion about the Walton Elementary School proposed renovation project. And we just really want to make sure the community is well informed. So I'm joined here this evening by Steve Mayo, Town Administrator, Greg Gliakis, Chair of the School Committee, Joe Bertrand, the Chair of the Permanent Building Committee, and I'm Kim Smith, Superintendent of the Wakefield Public Schools. So it's really been an exciting, time looking at the Walton Elementary School and really examining the needs. And I might just kick it off by saying that, the issue of equity and space are really two of the, where the dialogue first emerged at the Walton Elementary School. In regard to space, we've really been struggling at the Walton with the library, which is also used not only as a library, but as an art room, as a science room, as a technology room, as a music room. And with teachers sharing those spaces and students sharing those spaces throughout the day, the traffic and volume is really limiting the opportunities for students there and for teachers. So that really kind of got us in the game in regard to looking at the school and some of the needs. But as we began to do that, there were many other compelling reasons to look at it too. And one of them that I'm very passionate about as the superintendent of schools is really bringing the kindergarten home to the Walton Elementary School. At this point, the kindergarten children go to the Woodville School across town, and then the Walton is currently a grade 1 to 4 school. And I think there's so many compelling reasons to bring kindergarten back. But those were really just the starting point of the conversation. I'd like to say more about some of those needs and the why, but maybe just to kind of kick off the discussion, maybe Joe, you can tell us a little bit about how the Permanent Building Committee kind of stepped in and took on this project.
Sure. As you know, in May, last year, the town meeting authorized the Permanent Building Committee to do a space needs study for the Walton School. And over the summer, we had many requests for proposals out for architects. We selected the architect for it, and it was Tappé Associates, which is the same architect that did the Galvin. So we were familiar with their work. And the architect and the committee then met many times with the faculty at the Walton School and with some of the parents at the Walton School, and came up essentially what the needs were in those discussions. Tappé then went out and did their work that they had to do and came back to us in November with some ideas. We discussed them at great length over a meeting or so, and then they came up with essentially their final plans for the Walton Elementary School. And essentially what they came up with was to where the Walton School now has a gym slash cafeteria slash meeting everything theater, you name it. They would be taking that area and putting in there the administration, putting in that area the library or media center, so to speak, as they call them now, rather than libraries, and the nurses and the secretary administrative wing in there, plus some additional bathrooms, and then taking essentially a pre-engineered metal building to use as, and the building itself is a full-size gymnasium with a full-size basketball court, and creating that in the area of the paved asphalt section of the Walton School. We would not be dealing with the field or any of the playground or anything of that nature. And because one of the reasons of the problems is that there were the prefab modulars that were there that were supposed to last 10, maybe 15 years, and they've been there essentially 22 years. And so they had some problems structurally, and that's one of the areas that they dealt with. So we would take away those three modulars and then create from this engineering, and I don't know if you can see it, it's tough. But the engineered building is over in this area. The modulars were over here in this area, and then you would create an additional arts, music type room, some additionals. And I know there was one of the problems had to do with smaller spaces. But there were no real great smaller spaces for special ed and things of that nature. Literally, one of them was in a closet of the janitors. And there was janitorial supplies hanging around where the special eds would be. So there's some smaller spaces in here, some additional bathroom areas, and then the classrooms where you had administration before, they now would open up that area, and you would be able to bring in the 2 kindergarten classes as well, and then have essentially every grade have 2 classrooms, which is what was needed at the Walton. And so the architects, we thought they did a very good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very creative, taking away that gym, which is the area over here. But also what they did is, one of the problems that when we were talking with the faculty and the staff is that the entrance was really not an entrance that was used all the time off of Davidson Road. It was nowhere near the administration. There was no way to secure people coming in, so that the architect then moved the entrance, which used to be in this area, into right by the administration. And so therefore there would be some control and greater security, which is obviously an issue if somebody could just walk in to the school without anybody checking. So that added quite a lot as well. And then this area is where the gym, cafeteria, whatever was. They also created spaces for the kitchen area, so that it's not, nowadays, they were indicated some of the kitchen stuff is in the hallway.
Some of the kitchen equipment is currently in the hallway all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And that whole area would have specific areas created as well with this layout. So it really, I think it solved almost all. There's a few people that handle it, but 95% of the issues, I think, by this creative
well, I think kind of
approach.
Even stepping back when you were talking about the modular classrooms, if you remember when the school committee and I first, suggested that we take a look at it, we were really just asking at the beginning, what if we removed those modular classrooms, and put, and did some renovation in that area of the building, could we create the spaces we needed? But the conceptual design that TAP-A architects came up with this idea of really gutting the current gym area and using that space, and then putting this prefab engineered space, really is an exciting design that began to really hit many more of the issues. And you've really attended to some of those, Joe, and just in summary, I think those key ones are the entrance to the building for safety and security currently is here, where the administrative office is currently way up here. So this means that if they move it to this space, in this design, guests will buzz in, will be able to physically see who's at the door. It's a much safer entrance. They'll come right into the administrative office, be able to meet with the principal or check in with the secretary. A real advantage that you touched upon, but maybe a bit more in depth, is that the nurse will have her own nurse's station. Currently, right now at the Walton School, the nurse and the secretary share a space, which is not ideal when a child isn't feeling well or parents are coming in to pick up their child. For the nurse to have a private nurse's station is very, very important. So they really are able to create just a little mini administrative suite here. And bathrooms, both for faculty and staff, are a real significant need. And you can see that there are some bathrooms at both ends of the school that really will help with that. But I think, and maybe Greg, you can talk about the equity piece, but I think a piece of what we're perhaps most excited about is this Library Media Center. That was really, again, the touch point to begin the conversation. The students at this school, really, it's the only school in Wakefield where the children do not have access to their library throughout the entirety of the school day, because there may be other classes taking place in that room. So maybe you can speak a little bit to the school committee's point of view.
Sure.
On
So
this.
I think, maybe just to back up for a second, I think one of the things that you notice is the contrast between what a great school this is, what a great community this is, like unbelievably terrific teachers, excellent leadership, the student body is so impressive. The spirit of this school is incredibly strong. It's a great community school, but it's a building that doesn't meet the needs and it doesn't rise to that level of excellence. So I think excellence is one idea. You want, as you said, you want the experience for the Walton students and the Walton teachers to be as good as every other school in Wakefield. And then, as you said, equity is the other issue. You want all your elementary schools to provide those same educational opportunities for the students in Wakefield. So I think, as Joe said, the architects did a terrific job addressing the problems that you guys presented to them. So I think the plan in so many ways will deliver the building that the Walton students and the teachers deserve.
Maybe building off of that for the community as well. I think one of the things we are really in need of in the community of Wakefield is more gymnasium space, and the Wakefield Basketball Association, the high school winter color guard and winter percussion ensembles, there's all kinds of activities happening all winter long in need of gymnasium space, and so it's a real nice benefit to the community to have yet another quality space for the students and citizens to use. So I think that's a nice benefit, not even just for the school, but for the community as well.
And the media center, I think, is a good example. I think a lot of taxpayers in Wakefield ask, why do we have to renovate schools all the time? Why do we have to keep reinvesting in our school buildings? The library and media center, as Joe said, we don't refer to these as school libraries. Right. They may not be the kind of elementary school libraries that we experienced as kids. It's a media center now. Kids get their information in different ways, and the spaces need to be more tech savvy and more flexible.
That's right.
And that's the kind of 21st century learning experiences that our kids deserve.
That's right.
I think another of the couple of items that the architects did a great job on was if we have a bubble class, there is an area there, a room that can be used if we do have a bubble go through. Right. Which I think is something very important, because I know that caused a lot of problems for the school committee and for the superintendent we're shuffling people around. The other thing is this will give us a chance to bring up the existing building up to code with and replace the HVAC system. We'll roll that in, and also sprinkle that.
That's correct. It had to be. It is not sprinkled,
right.
And so that had to be added in to sprinkle the entire building.
Right.
We also asked when they came in and did the pricing of it to some add alternates, because some of the boilers and some of the HVAC equipment was nearing the end of its useful life.
Which, by the way, we're going to have to do anyway in a few years.
Right.
You would
do it. It doesn't.
Right.
Why not do it now when you're doing the work that you're doing?
Right.
And we added that in. Essentially, is add alternates, and they provided pricing for that as well. The area where the bubble, if it is necessary, there's spaces up here for storage and for smaller classrooms, and this can be turned into where you would take down a wall, you would then have an additional classroom. So that area is where the bubble class would be
so
put
just to clarify, by bubble we mean if there's a cohort of students that's growing from the current cohort, if there's growth in the school, we've planned for that growth.
Right. That's correct.
Right.
In the current enrollment projections for the next 15 or 20 years do not indicate that there will be a bubble coming, but that's not a chance you can take. You really don't know.
You don't see bubbles coming.
That's right. You don't see it coming, but the preparation for that's a good one. And I don't want to miss the point that Joe made about these smaller spaces. So right now we're really lacking in those spaces for students to receive services, whether it's counseling or special education services or even small group conversations. Currently, unfortunately, we're even using closets at the moment to create those spaces, and often the principal will relinquish her office so that we can create a small space. And so it's just not an ideal situation right now. But I've also heard the faculty talk a lot about the traffic flow and how it will improve in this new setup. And again, I can't underscore enough the value of bringing the kindergarten children back to the Walton School and starting their school experience there. I think we all know how important it is to become part of a school culture, to become part of that school family, and for our youngest learners to have to make that transition twice, beginning first at the Woodville and then at the Walton, is really not ideal, and it's just so exciting to see that we can make that transition. But I think such an important part is how will we fund this project, and I think Steve can really speak to the funding of this idea.
So first of all, this project will not, and I'm going to say will not be outside Proposition 2.5, so it will not be a debt exclusion. It will not add to your tax bill like the Galvin project did. That was just too big to fold within our current structure. And really, we're going to use a financing mechanism that I think the community is very, very well aware of. It's our debt service fund. And we've used that to fund the Dalbert School, the Woodville School, the library, the senior center, the fields at the high school, and the public safety building, and the land acquisition in Greenwood, here, call it Arundel Ave. Now this whole fund began in about the year 2000 by people a lot smarter than me, who put this whole program together, where every year we put about $2.8 million into this fund. Annual article at town meeting. There's really very few questions on it. It just goes in there and it handles all the borrowing or the bonds and all these projects. So think about it as a mortgage. We're paying the mortgage on the project. So much like you would put an addition on your house and maybe you'd refinance or you get an equity line, we're kind of doing the same thing here, which is really, I think, a pretty true and tried way of financing larger projects. But what's really great about what's happened in Wakefield is that a lot of these projects that we have done before, we're getting ready to have a burning the mortgage party on a lot of them are going to be done. Dalbert School will be done in 2 years. Okay. Woodville in 3 years. The library's already done. That library has all been, beautiful library's been completed. We've already paid that off. Senior center in 2 more fiscal years. The public safety building, 2 or 3 more years. The fields at the high school, which we just did, that's going to be about another 10 years, but still pretty good, pretty good. So with all of these items coming off, what it would cost in the Walton School, and let's call it a $6 million project when everything is all said and done, would be about $350,000 a year. That would fit right in. So while these come off, you know, Dalbert, $100,000, we're not going to pay it. Woodville, $600,000, we're not going to pay it as a community anymore. This would fit in, and it would work very well. And Kim and I have met with the Finance Committee, and they certainly also believe that this folds in and works well. So I think that this is certainly something that the town can do and can do without missing a beat.
The other thing I would add, Steve, is thanks to the steady, good fiscal stewardship of the Board of Selectmen and you, we have an excellent bond rating.
Yes.
And we're at a time of low interest rates.
Yes.
So that enhances our ability to do this in a fiscally responsible way.
And maybe we're going to hope those rates stay low. That always
Right.
helps.
Right.
But thank you. But no, they've done a great job. So this will be on the warrant at town meeting, which is going to start on May 1st. This is actually Article 13 on the warrant. Lucky 13, it's one of my very lucky numbers. I think it will probably happen the first night. A very good chance it could happen the first night, which would be Monday, May 1st. And it will take, because we are borrowing, it will take a 2/3 vote. So it is important that, you know, the community comes out and supports this project. And I will say, in talking to the teachers, and I think Joe would say this as well, a lot of teachers have come to a lot of the meetings, and they've had a lot of input in how best to do that building.
They have been very, very actively involved in that, and that is tremendous that they've done it, and parents as well that have come to almost every one of our meetings and have really added a lot to the ultimate design. So they should get a lot of credit for that as well.
And I neglected to say, the school committee unanimously endorsed this.
Yes.
We don't agree on everything, but there was absolute agreement that this project is worthwhile, and I think for the fundamental reason that it's going to greatly enhance the educational experience for students at that school.
Right. And it's an equity issue.
Right.
It's an equity issue for
Right.
those kids.
Right.
Anything else to add?
I would add, if people had questions about the project, particularly the scheme, the architectural layout, Can that be put on the website, for the school department's website, so maybe they could go in?
It can.
You can scan that, put it on, so people
right.
can see it.
Also, I am going to be hosting a community forum on March 22nd. It's a Wednesday evening at the Galvin Middle School at 7:00 p.m. I'll start an advertising, I've started a little bit of advertising, but I'll do a lot more advertising in the next week or so. But really, it's just an opportunity for folks to come in, ask questions, talk about, you know, any concerns or thoughts that they have, and just have another opportunity maybe to see the design up close. So we're really looking forward to that as well. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.